troll in the dungeon. Welcome back to episode 67 of Pop Kannon. We are your hosts. My name is Jordan.
I'm Robert.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Joe.
I just thought you ought to know that there was a troll in the dungeon. We are celebrating 20 years of Harry Potter. And depending on where you're listening to this at, you could have called it Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or, growing up like we did, it was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah. Wait, was the movie that way too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they recorded like completely different dialect? Wow.
I think so.
Yeah. I think because there's posters that say Sorcerer or Philosopher, depending on where you are.
Wow. So yeah, 20 years ago this movie dropped, changed the game of cinema legitimately. We talked about this right before we actually hit record, about how Harry Potter as a film franchise has kind of molded the way that people look at cinematic universes now. Mm-hmm. I think that's really cool. It's something that should be celebrated. And this movie really defined a generation of people, like especially our age, because that hit us like from the get-go.
Yeah, we're a prime target for that.
So right at the start of this episode, I just want to ask you guys, what was kind of your first earliest memories of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, the Sorcerer's Stone, whatever? Sarah?
In general, I mean, I read the books. I just remember, so like really embarrassing thing, but I just remember, I don't know if I was in first grade or what, but when I was reading the book, I didn't realize that that's how you spelled cupboard. So in my head, I just kept reading it as cupboard. And I'm like, what is a cupboard? He lives in a cupboard. Thankfully, I've gotten a little bit better at reading and spelling. But no, I was like a little bit of like, not like a full out Harry Potter nerd as a kid, but I was really, really into the books and the films when they came out. Joe, how about you?
So yeah, I was a big Harry Potter kid. I read all the books. I watched every movie. I played Quidditch in college. I really just kind of like left it behind now. And part of like going back to this is a lot of just separating art from artist, because J.K. Rowling just has the worst online presence of anybody. I remember going to see Chamber of Secrets at midnight with my mom. Wow. Which like that was my first midnight premiere. Wow. And I was just like some kid with his mom. Other memories of this, it's really just like how ABC Family like decided it was a Christmas movie, and like watching all the marathons and stuff. So yeah,
it's
it just
kind of like weekend.
Right.
Every fucking weekend.
It's hard to remember like a time before Harry Potter. I just remember being in like the Borders at the Viewmont Mall, for all you NEPA folks out there. And my mom just like walking up to me in the kids section and being like, do you want this? It's like apparently like the hot new book. And I was like, okay. And honestly, the first book was a struggle for me because there's so much exposition in that book. But once I like got myself through that and started the second one, that's when I felt like I was hooked. Which in the same way, like I think this might be one of like the weakest movies of the entire franchise. So it's really funny that like it grew into what it was from this. Robert, what's your Harry Potter origin?
I was not super into it. I only read the first 3.5 books. I stopped in the middle of Goblet of Fire because that Quidditch Cup game just really like took me out of the entire thing, and I didn't care anymore. Once I looked ahead and saw I had to wait till like chapter 16 or 20 or something like that to get to Harry and all of them, I was like, I'm out, dude, fuck this. In retrospect, I enjoyed reading this one a lot because I read this one on my own. And as far as the film, my cousins and I, Paul, who's not on this episode, and my cousin Samantha, we used to dub movies when we were younger, and this was one of them that we did. because we knew it. We were so familiar with the story, so we kind of could set ourselves up for jokes and whatnot. And when we were doing it, our grandmother at some point had like snuck in behind us and sat on the couch and was listening to everything that we were saying, and we weren't censoring ourselves. So it was super inappropriate, a lot of the stuff, and something that one of us said caused her to laugh out loud, and then we knew she was there, and then she just lost it. And then she let us, she just said she wanted to hear the rest of the story that we were creating, so she sat back and let us finish. So that was really cool. So I always think of that when I watch this movie, so it has a special place for me. I didn't really get into the movies as far as going to see them in theaters. I didn't see this one in theaters. I think I've seen all of them in passing, like you said, on ABC Family or Freeform, or every fucking weekend. It's a Harry Potter weekend, and they'd make excuses for it, like, oh, it's 4th of July, time for Harry Potter.
Well, you
It's
know,
Christmas, Harry
wands
Potter.
and fireworks.
Yeah,
And
it just they make any excuse.
It's like the Rib Witch.
And then working retail at a bookstore, where half of the merch that moves in that place is Harry Potter related somehow.
Yeah.
And watching specifically the demographic of Harry Potter fans, which is almost exclusively women. And I don't say that to put down any male Harry Potter fans, but in my experience at that store, men of any age basically would walk past the Harry Potter section, and women of every age would stop and look at all of the stuff. It's that the houses just like take the place of the Zodiac. So if you have women that are into the Zodiac, they immediately fall into which house is theirs and love and or hate the other houses accordingly. Jordan, what do you think about Harry Potter? What are your...
So, earliest memories, I remember I checked out the first book from my school's library. I had it for about 2 days, and I read maybe 2-3 chapters, and that was really it. Never went back to it. By the time the movie came out, I was much more open-minded to it, and I don't necessarily know if I saw it in a theater. But I do remember watching it at home on home video with my cousin Sierra, and I remember playing the video game for the PlayStation 1.
Worst video game.
So those are like ingrained in my brain, those kind of memories about this. I did, as I got older, I would go to the midnight premieres, had a lot of fun with that, and really fell in love with the storytelling that they were able to achieve over those films, because as I've said on this podcast before, I love serialized storytelling, and this franchise did something with book series that no other film has been able to do since, in my opinion, correctly.
I think that opening scene is kind of goofy, like all the way around.
Really?
How so?
Specifically when Dumbledore like name checks the cat. It's just like the way that he delivers that is so fucking over the top ridiculous.
Professor McGonagall.
Yeah. As if, like in their private life, they call each other Professor.
But just like the way he
Instead
just
of, like,
looks at her and he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, fancy to see you here, Professor McGonagall," and then he like turns as if she were hiding from him as well, and he caught her or something like that. What kind of games are they playing together? Is what I want to know.
That scene is more or less word for word, like direct out of the first chapter of the book. Though.
Yeah,
like they didn't really change a single thing. Like from like Robert said earlier, the pen light, but it's like it's a lighter, a deluminator is what you find out 5 books later is what it's called. From that down to, Hagrid's motorcycle, McGonagall just being there, and as much in the book by that point as in the movie. Yeah. It's an interesting little bit of world building to me, to have like these like ridiculously dressed people on this very plain looking street. Yeah.
They could have just like enchanted the transformer and killed the lights too.
Yeah, but wizards don't think to do that. It's very like this whole episode is going to be me like wrestling with nostalgia to be like, what's the truth here? Like, was it good or did I just like it?
See, I think you could just like it. It's fine.
I think the tone of this movie compared to every other film in this series is so fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's just about having a good time.
Yeah, it's very, like, innocent. Like, at least, like, all of the characters are, because, like, there's, like, no real super defined villain yet. Even watching the whole thing and just, like, the whole film, it just seemed so young. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it hasn't grown up yet. Like, the series hasn't grown up yet. Because then you get to, like, the last few movies, like, even, like, the Deathly Hallows especially, like, they're just so physically dark.
Yeah.
And I know, like, which we'll probably talk about, like, the different directors through the various parts of the series, but I think, like, as Joe kind of, like, has mentioned, like, the first two films definitely have, like, a different air about them that kind of gets lost in, like, the subsequent films, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think Chris Columbus's direction really lends itself to that. I was sitting there last night watching the opening when, like, it's just that shot of the hallway and then you see, like, Dudley coming down the stairs and there's the pan down, and I thought to myself, like, this feels like Home Alone, and then I remembered, like, it's because it's Chris Columbus. The film, like, looks kind of like a Lord of the Rings movie for kids. Like, it's got that film look. It's very, like, over the shoulder, not, like, crazy, like, highlighted, like, the spells aren't like the lasers that we see in the later movies. I think part of that maybe is just because of what they were able to do with effects at that point.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, the CGI is rough, but, like, when they do, like, the spells without showing, like, a visual element, just, like, what happens is what happens. For some reason, I just really latched onto that. And then after the second one, it, like, all the humor becomes a lot more, like, slapstick. It's kind of like the fourth wall starts to break down after that third movie. And as a kid, I just didn't really appreciate that. And I guess I'm still bitter about it now.
Well, I mean, they decidedly get less fun, I feel like.
Yeah.
Because the stakes get higher and higher. But in this one, I mean, I feel like it's super fun and super whimsical, and I enjoy learning all of the, like, the small ways that they do the exposition in this. I think that they handle it really well, like Ron explaining the cards in the chocolate frog stuff, and, like, little ways that they go about explaining it. But also, like, Hermione came across really annoying this time for me. Like, especially at the beginning of the movie, she's super heavy-handed until Ron insults her behind her back, and then she gets all pissy, and it changes there from there.
But she also seems, like, earnest in that. Like, it's not like she's, like, she's obviously playing a character, but she's doing a really good job of being like, that's who she is. It's not just a bit.
No, she definitely was able to come across as hoity-toity, I think would be the best way. She's not, like you said, she's not doing it from, like, a where she's, like, looking down on you like maybe Malfoy is.
Right.
But she just is, like, so much smarter and can't believe other people aren't.
I mean, at least she does her homework, and nobody else seems to.
Yeah.
But I liked that about Hermione's character, is that, like, she was a genuine child who's inquisitive and, like, curious and eager to learn. And then you look at the flip side of that, and Harry and Ron are not that at all.
Yeah.
So it's fun to play off of that dynamic that they have.
In, like, the first one, you don't get more of, like, Hermione's backstory until, like, later on, but it's, like, I think a lot of her eagerness too is because, like, she's not from that world, so because she's, like, born not, like, of Muggle parents or whatever, so it's, like, she must have, like, learned that stuff so fucking quick. And then you have Ron, who grew up in that, and he's just kind of like,
No idea.
like, whatever, this is, like, how things are. And then you have Harry, who, again, like, literally it's like, you're a wizard, Harry. He's like, all right, like, okay, cool. So it's, like, really interesting how, like, you get those three people, and then how, like, they all encompass different parts of, like, the Gryffindor house. Because realistically, like, you would assume maybe that, like, Hermione being so smart would be in, like, Ravenclaw.
because all Ravenclaws have similar traits that are very similar to the Zodiac. So,
well, you know, Slytherin is for like bad people, and
but see, that's the thing that's so weird.
Hufflepuff is for the rest of everybody.
It's so weird that, like, I understand why they set it up that Slytherin is like full of the villains or what have you, but it's just so weird that a house like that would even exist in a school to like dump the people that they know are going to be a problem.
It's like, is that like, okay, like in Freaks and Geeks, is that like the smoking section of the school? Like,
it's like
under the bleachers.
So like when the Sorting Hat puts you in Slytherin and you're not a Malfoy, do you go like, oh shit, what have I done? Or who am I really? Is it like a crisis of conscience? Like,
I read it clearly because like they're like, it's like my
they're
hair's not
made out to be such
greasy
villains.
enough. No, they are. The movies don't really portray. I don't think the movies portray like any of the other houses as much as they do. Like obviously,
Gryffindor and
Slytherin. But it's like it's because there's literally like it's like Harry, Ron, and Hermione versus Draco Malfoy.
Right.
Like,
Right.
so then, like, you automatically get the, like, I'm sure there are very nice people in Slytherin, but guess what? Very nice people don't make an interesting story.
Yeah, no, exactly.
You need the conflict.
That's why you barely get any Hufflepuff, apparently, because they're supposedly nice and quiet, according
I guess
to
they're
their Zodiac.
boring.
You get Cedric Diggory later.
Well, that is true. And then
Yeah.
he makes every girl want to be a Hufflepuff.
And then he dies.
Spoilers.
It's been 20
It's
fucking
been
years.
20 years.
J.K. Rowling didn't do that much work to like show them as like realistic places because like it all the the wizard Nazis end up in Slytherin, but yeah, like they offhandedly say like, oh, like great wizards have come from Slytherin. I couldn't name any, but they have.
Yeah.
Well,
And
you
then,
know,
like-
Sure.
Voldemort, he did terrible but great things, so
Yeah.
we got him.
And then later on, they do like add some like asshole characters who are from like different houses. Like Craig McCracken, I think, was a Gryffindor, and he was a fucking dipshit.
The Sorting Hat got him wrong.
Yeah,
But I was going to say, to the point that they make Slytherin out to be villains, then you get told that Snape is the head of that house. And Snape has, I think, 2 scenes where he speaks, and he's already like the biggest villain in the movie, and the kids
Yeah.
are like boogeymanning him to have
Yeah.
to stop everything that he's doing, and he's literally talked like twice on screen.
he's red
Yeah.
herring.
Dude. And these kids are like, we have to stop Professor Snape, and I'm like, talk to him.
But
It's
like
great.
again, but he has that look about him. He's got his long greasy hair. He's always like
Aloof and
pissed
weird.
off or like
Yeah.
whatever. And he's Slytherin. And so like
Yeah.
when you're an 11-year-old kid, like you don't think about that.
It goes to just like the prejudice that the film builds against Slytherin.
But like it builds out against him. I mean, for like 10 years worth
And,
of
and to be
content.
fair, his actions
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, he's a
influence
fucking
that a little
asshole.
bit too.
He's a spooky weirdo.
Well,
He-
even
he's
that
a
scene
jerk.
right before the Quidditch match, like knowing like that, like he's not the bad guy in the end. It's like he's just socially awkward. Like he's legitimately trying to tell Harry good luck, but he's just coming
Yeah.
off like threatening and
Well, right.
Yeah, and
he
menacing.
rushes away.
And then he's got all this like emotional, like weird, awkward emotional baggage.
Yeah.
It's all compounded from like what we find out later, and
Right.
and how Snape genuinely feels about Harry.
Yeah, and he's the one character that I think like she had kind of figured out from the beginning, because there's that like trivia that she handpicked Alan Rickman for the role, she being J.K. Rowling, and she told him Snape's backstory
Yeah.
that like readers wouldn't find out about till like Half-Blood Prince, but like he knew about that from the very first movie, so like he knew to perform with that in mind. So that at least like in hindsight we know is there, but
Right. Because like he's looking at Harry and like with like, I don't know, like malcontent or whatever. And they're like, oh my God, he's evil. And really he's just like, oh, you have your mother's eyes.
Yeah. That's the funniest.
Which is like, but it's also like you have your father's rest of you. So.
Yeah. So like he's reminded of like what he's lost every time that he sees Harry.
Right.
So obviously he's going to be a little, like standoffish. It's understandable.
But it's very funny that like even after finding out like it wasn't him, they don't give the guy a fucking break for the rest of the series anyway. Nope. They're like, just because it
keep
wasn't
watching
you.
that motherfucker. That's all.
It's also very funny. I don't know if I would have caught this if I had like seen this then with my knowledge now, but like I obviously I had read the book, but like I would have missed it, that they always like show a shot of Quirrell whenever it's like a thing that like they think like Snape is being bad. And it's so, like it seems so obvious now.
So like, obvious, dude. I was going to say the same thing.
Why did we cut to Professor Quirrell after Snape's robes caught on fire?
Exactly.
I do like when they do catch fire, you see Quirrell in the back like dive downward like really heavily.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
That like lends itself to like the kind of like year-long mystery nature of these books, and like it's kind of like a recycled format, at least for like the first 3, where it's like it's just like something's happening but it takes all year for it to like kind of play out. But it worked, I guess. Like it was kind of pulpy in its own sense.
Yeah, because it's kind of like the storyline, it's like self-contained, like you know what I mean, like if they would have gone on maybe to like, for at least for the first one, if they would have decided not to make it a series, I mean you get a pretty satisfying ending. Like again, there wasn't really like, you didn't get like the big boss battle per se, and there's no like obvious conclusion with Voldemort, but if they would have like stopped there, it's still like you would have had a satisfying story.
Yeah, it could still stand on its own as its own film.
Whereas I think, at least from like what I remember or like what I'm thinking, it's like later films especially, like you need the other films more for context.
Yeah. Well, especially this was the first series to do that, like we'll split the last book into 2 parts.
Yeah.
Which like, why?
Yeah.
Everybody followed suit after that. So.
Exactly.
Just to draw it out more.
Yeah.
Money. I don't know. There's a lot of money in Harry Potter, so
there is.
Yeah, there is. Still, right now.
Yeah. the amount of merch that Harry Potter as a brand must move.
I can't even tell you, dude.
Only imagine.
Print money at that point.
Yeah. It's literally any product you can think of they just put the fucking Hogwarts logo on it and people will buy it. Individual house stuff, I've seen people at the bookstore, I remember being like looking at the socks, and literally I remember somebody not purchasing it because it had a house that they didn't want to wear, so they would not buy all of them.
Damn. I'm just curious what house you guys think you would be in.
Oh. That's so the most recent thing that they did, I think it's called Pottermore. That website.
That was years ago. But
did you get sorted?
I did. I took it because everybody at work, because this is right at the peak of me working there when that dropped. So everybody was like, "Oh my god, you have to do it." So I was a Slytherin Gryffindor cusp, like Harry Potter.
Kind of a big deal.
But when I told everybody at work that it split me and I could choose which one I wanted to do, they all told me I would be Slytherin.
So that's saying something about you.
This podcast. All right.
I'd probably go Hufflepuff. I'm pretty chill, and I'm low key. So like, you don't need to see me. I'll just be silent and quiet in the background.
Jordan's a 50s housewife.
I think I always thought Hufflepuff, but Pottermore gave me Slytherin, and I mean it makes sense. I get it.
Come to the dark side, Joe.
Yeah, I think Pottermore gave me Gryffindor.
Yeah.
Damn, I never did Pottermore.
Sarah, where are you going?
I don't know. I just probably would be like Hufflepuff because, whatever, the last, like, get over there. I'm not.
It's right by the kitchen.
Yeah.
Come on, Sarah.
No, I'm not
over to
particularly brave. I don't feel like a Slytherin because like I'm not combative. I'm not gonna like steal your lunch money. I mean, maybe Ravenclaw if it's a good day.
Yeah. Slytherin also has like the worst storms. It's like under the lake, and it just sounds like very damp and gross.
Do you want to have like breathing problems?
Yeah, right. No wonder they're all fucking evil.
Mildew.
That's why they're all so like pasty.
One thing I did notice is that I don't know if it's just like the specific color correction on my television, but Malfoy's hair looked a lot more strawberry blonde than platinum blonde that I remembered it watching this back. And I was like, I don't know if that's like a thing with my specific viewing situation or if anybody else. It's just like it was so much less like that bright white blonde that I remember thinking it was supposed to be, and it seemed a lot more with like a pinkish hue to it.
I didn't really notice. They also simulate like torchlight a lot in this, so you think maybe that would have helped it.
Maybe he needs like a better toner. To get to a little bit of purple shampoo to get out some of that brassiness.
He was like almost at platinum, but they didn't have enough time to get it dyed. So they just threw him on screen where he was like maybe 1 or 2 services away from actually being platinum.
They only really had roughly 4 to 4.5 hours per day on set with the kids.
Oh my God.
So like imagine trying to film an entire movie centered around kids and your lead actors are only on set 4 hours a day.
Wow.
Well, that's why you got a lot of the adults looking at each other in different rooms because we got to film something. We're here.
Yeah.
So, and I know we talked about this a little bit too before we even recorded, just about how the second movie is a little more memorable. The effects were much better by the time the second film came out. Joe, you had mentioned you think that's due to budget.
Yeah, which I haven't done any research about, but I think I do think like Sorcerer's Stone was kind of a gamble of like a book adaptation. At that point, I think only 4 books were out.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know that they were thinking like, yeah, we're going to make 8 movies and like make all the money under the sun. They were like, let's see how this goes. And then, maybe we'll make another one. And it all worked out. But like, I said that like before I rewatched it, and I kind of feel bad about it now because like the CGI is really rough. The green screen looks terrible. Like I hate the look of the Quidditch grounds, but everything else, like all the practical stuff, like Diagon Alley looks amazing. Like the set design of this movie is really out of this world. The costumes were great, and like watching that first movie, like you can see why they made a theme park out of it because it looks like an actual lived-in place that you go to. Like it doesn't look like a movie set.
Yeah, because like I think I read that they were like going to like use old streets for Diagon Alley, but then they just decided to like build the whole like set, which I think was definitely like a good call. Yeah,
because if like they're like when you read about Diagon Alley, like there should not be like a straight angle on that street, and there's not in that whole street. It winds down.
Yeah, the production design for Diagon Alley was phenomenal.
Yeah. It was only a few years ago when I realized that's just the word diagonally.
Yeah.
Good job.
She's not a great writer, honestly.
One day I just read it in passing and I went diagonally and I went, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah. Well, just like the Mirror of Erised is just desire backwards. And I'm pretty sure like most of the spells are just like Latin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like she gets away with it because she gets to say it's for children. So
well, I was gonna say even like to that point, if like I mean, this was like again they took a young adult book and they made a movie that's like it's a family friendly film, and I feel like maybe until like recent years we didn't see like huge blockbusters that were for kids. I mean now we have like shit like Frozen, but it did well, which is probably why they're like, yeah, let's make more.
Yeah.
As a kid, I was a little bit of like a purist about I wanted everything from the book to be on screen. And like now I realize that like when you're screenwriting, like a book and a screenplay are two very different experiences. And I actually was frustrated rewatching about how much they left in of the book, because they like still didn't do everything, but they tried to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
That I think in the long run really hurt the movie. Like the whole detention scene in the dark forest feels really unnecessary. Besides to like, I guess it just like sheds light that Voldemort's there. Or at the very least, like Ferenz didn't have to be the one to come. Ferenz is the centaur, who is not in the rest of the movie and just has like 1-page dialogue with Harry that Harry's very chill about for having seen a centaur for the first time in his life and almost having died from the vampiric thing eating the unicorn.
Totally cool.
Yeah.
Harry's got ice in his veins, man.
There's no reason Hagrid couldn't have had that line, especially because I think the scene in the book is a lot longer and like Ferenz matters a lot more.
Well, yeah, because like I don't remember if it's in the first book, but like there's like a whole pack of centaurs, so I thought like it
We've
was
already
just
established
more.
the budget. We can only
we only have the
afford
budget
one
for one of these guys.
It's dark.
Yeah.
4 minutes of screen time, that's it. You mentioned Lord Voldemort. I thought that scene with the unicorn blood was cool as like an interesting setup for that character to come in later. And when he finally shows up, he's on the back of Professor Quirrell's head. And as a 9-year-old, I was like, what the hell? So I always kind of had this phobia that bald people had Voldemort on the back of their head.
Only if they're like hiding their bald head with like turbans and
Yeah, if you see a white
party
guy in a
hats.
turban, it's already a red flag. But
What did you guys think about Voldemort as a character in the first movie alone?
He's kind of spooky. But overall, he like kind of also doesn't really do much. So.
Yeah. I just felt like him as like the villain was just, it was like, I mean, I know he's physically weak, but he just felt kind of like a weak villain. He didn't like feel like this big superpower, and I think that's why I still stand by like saying like if they would have ended this as one movie, like you would have been fine with the ending of him like floating off as like a weird disembodied cloud.
Ghoul.
Like a ghoul, but it's just like I don't know. And I mean, I'm sure like when I was 9 it was a lot scarier, but Professor Quirrell's not scary at all.
No,
like I thought his whole character was kind of like weak, besides like the stuttering, but just like he just wasn't physically imposing. He just didn't really do much. I don't know, I just like not like the big bad boss that you expect.
Yeah, the turn for me wasn't really that satisfying, especially watching it now. Like watching this as its own film, as a standalone, I guess is satisfying, but it doesn't have that satisfying big magical conclusion in the way that other movies in the franchise do.
See, I thought like the lead up to get to the room with him was more fun.
It was.
I always did.
Well, it
I
was
always
more. It was
liked,
scarier. Like the chess thing
Key
was
scene.
fucking freaky. Still.
Yeah, and that chess game was fucking nuts, dude. Nuts. It's like that scene is so cool, and then also like, how is Ron that good at chess?
yeah.
But I think that like his chess does like play on like more like in the story, at least like in the books and stuff. But it's like he's there because he, you know, he has to have a purpose as being in the friend group.
Yeah. And he literally says to Harry, "We're not meant to go on."
No, leave us. Fuck us. Go.
When we did our dub of it, the one thing I remember more than anything is the joke that Hagrid throughout this movie says that he tells them something and then immediately says that he shouldn't tell them. So that became a meme. And then what I did because I was the voice of Hagrid in our dub, I told them everything that they were about to encounter and how to beat it. And then I said I shouldn't have told you that. And then they go into the key room. So like, it's just like one of the funniest things that I remember doing. And it was so fucking funny to like play that out, because then Paul was like, oh, and then he just said to do this. So then it looked like Harry knew, instead of figuring out, he was just trying to do all of the stuff as he was told to do. But no, I think that chess game is probably like one of the better set pieces in the entire movie, especially because it looked really cool.
Yeah.
I don't think the CGI in that, even though it's pretty obvious, isn't bad.
Yeah. Well, at least it's not bad enough, like, where it didn't like take me out of the scene at all.
Yeah.
And I mean, that entire set was practical. Like, they were working with real giant chess pieces.
Yeah.
So, like, the scale of it really came across on film for me.
And to even elicit the phrase, that chess game was really cool, is an accomplishment in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, look at Queen's Gambit. People like chess.
I still have to watch that, but
Yeah, I even made a comment to Cheyenne when we were watching it, that like, oh, it's a good thing that Ron is really good at chess, because that came in handy for him at the very end.
it's almost like someone wrote it.
It's, very coincidental that Hermione's great at herbology. Oh, wait. Plants. And then, the youngest seeker in a century. Hop on that broomstick and get that key. Oh, Ron, you're like chess?
Yeah.
What a coincidence.
Yeah. Voldemort's like the worst villain.
I remember, like, as a kid, one of my, like, frustrations with not having everything in the book is, like, there were challenges that they left out. Like, Snape had a challenge that was blocking the stone, and it was, like, a potions challenge. And it's, like, a dramatic scene in the book because they, like, Ron's already been got in the chess game. So, like, Ron's, like, lying there, and they're like, we gotta go.
Bye, Ron.
See you, bye.
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually like totally forgot, because I think that was like a point in the book where it's like every professor who was involved like had a challenge.
Yeah. But they were also like, well, this was Snape's challenge, so obviously he had an easy time with this.
So I would say that the chess game is probably my favorite sequence. What is your favorite sequence, Jordan?
I think, and it changes depending on when I'm watching the movie, but I think, as of my latest viewing of it, it's when Harry gets the invisibility cloak and is going through the corridors, and I thought that was a really tense way to have him uncover some secrets. Like that conversation that Snape has with Quirrell, I thought was fun, considering the fact that Harry is right there. And none of them know it. So I thought that was really effective, and I'm going to go ahead and say that is my favorite sequence. Joe, favorite sequence?
I do think the chess scene definitely got me a lot, but I think I also really love the opening sequence, and even like up until like when they're in Diagon Alley. The Dursleys, like, as much as like they're like hateable people, like I love the performances from them.
Yeah.
They're always just so present, even though they're only in like the very beginning of every movie. They're always just spot on with their characters. And another like kind of Snape thing is like, once you learn about Lily and Petunia and all that, every scene with her kind of reads different, even though like she's still like doing the wrong thing, but like, that like she's like mourning at the same time. Yeah, I just really like those sequences with the Dursleys, especially when the letters start coming through and seeing that magic element in a very normal setting was very cool.
That was practical. The letters was practical, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah. Sarah, was yours?
Well, I was going to say the chess, and then that was taken. And then I was going to say the letters, and that was taken. And I'm just like...
So what's your third favorite scene?
It's not Quidditch.
No, the Quidditch was hard to watch, actually. But like I'm trying to like also separate like the iconic quotes from like scenes that I actually like the whole like sequence of the troll, so iconic as you opened up the podcast. But like also I'm like the CGI troll was just like not great. So like it's like and then like you just get kids who are screaming for help and not moving. It's just like, fucking, you have legs. You have muggle legs. Run. So I don't know. It's just...
Is it the three-headed dog?
Well, you know, I am a sucker for three-headed dogs.
Aren't we all?
Especially named Fluffy. But like I do enjoy all of the scenes like with Hagrid, because like he just like, you could tell like he just like wants companionship. Like the whole thing with Fluffy, it's like, it's so cute, it's Fluffy. It's like, no, it's a fucking vicious three-headed dog. And then like fucking Norbert the dragon, like there, Norbert, that's the favorite scene.
I will say though, Hagrid's definitely my favorite character in the first movie, like without a doubt.
I mean, it's easy to default to him because, especially like his introduction is so like jarring and like terrifying in a way, and he gives Dursley a tail, like just immediately comes across as likable.
Hagrid's a good character.
They railroaded Hagrid.
Yes, your favorite is Hagrid. Sarah, what's your favorite character?
I go back and forth, but I'm still really feeling for Ron right now. Although I always thought Oliver Wood was very cute.
He had to wrestle a fake imaginary floating ball.
Yeah,
And you know what?
And it was so convincing. I am very, very happy with that guy's performance in this movie. So shout out to him.
Yezi, just like add that to your theory of why women like Harry Potter.
Oliver Wood.
Wrangling his ball.
He really knows how to handle a ball.
Jordan, what's your favorite character?
I really like Ron.
All right,
And-
Harry Potter.
And honestly, I kind of like Neville in this movie.
That was great.
He's a guy who I never really paid much attention to his character back in the day watching this movie, but watching him now, like, it's so fun and refreshing, especially knowing where that character winds up.
Like he gets
just
hot.
putting up fisticuffs, ready to go to war with Harry Potter and Ron Weasley. And then Hermione just takes him off the board.
But he got 10 points.
He gets the 10 points that counts, man.
The real cherry on that scene is when they're walking out and Ron says, "It's for your own good." He doesn't even say sorry.
Poor Neville. Joe, what about you? Any favorite character?
In this movie, I think I have a real soft spot for Dumbledore, and I think that's mostly because of Richard Harris's performance, and he only got to play him in the first two because he passed away in 2002. I thought he was like a perfect Dumbledore. I really didn't like the follow-up Dumbledore that much, but I think that's
I don't like the other Dumbledore either.
Yeah, I really liked Richard Harris as Dumbledore, and I didn't really care for Michael Gambon after him.
That's surprising.
Yeah, I don't know. He brought the fun out in Dumbledore that I think was really missing after Chamber of Secrets. Dumbledore is like, he can be like a very threatening presence, but I think he can also be fun, and like, especially when he's supposed to be like a school principal, I think it's important for him to be like the fun principal, and that's why everybody likes him. But like, on that note, that like he was only recast because he passed away, it's really amazing. Every actor in this, even like the side characters, like Seamus is the same actor from movie 1 to movie 8. Like, the only ones that get recast are like the ones that pass away, or like that kid that went to prison.
Crab?
Yeah. And
You
like,
took Slytherin a little too far.
Yeah, like I love that they like had that commitment to like keep all these actors the same, and like they all did, like, I thought, amazing.
Yeah, especially considering that like for so many of them, like this was like their first like real thing. So I mean, you have like a feature film that's literally pretty much being run by like noobs.
Yeah, and I mean, Daniel Radcliffe is green in this movie.
Yeah, and like in some ways, like you can kind of tell, but I think like it also works just because like if any scene like he feels like a little awkward, I mean Harry's kind is a little awkward, especially like in this because he's new to this world.
He has He has like such an earnest delivery on so much of it, especially at the beginning where he's just like a question machine.
Yeah.
But he does it in a way that like it doesn't seem to take you out of it, or it doesn't seem like, oh, that's all he's there to do.
Yeah, because it worked. I mean, and I think it ends up working for like the characterization, because I think like I read something with Rupert Grint. Like some people didn't like the way he was kind of like acting or like overacting, but I just think it kind of like works for Ron. And like, yeah, like I think as the characters and the actors get older and the writers like change, like I think like obviously the characters do change, but it's like in a realistic way considering all that happens throughout the storyline.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see the like creative teams change, but I think like you said, these actors took ownership of these characters and like fostered them and like kept the through line throughout all the movies to like show them growing. And I think also like to the point of them being green, at least from like the stories that like have come out, whether or not it's just PR, like the adult cast is such like a powerhouse of like established actors that like the stories are all that like they were very like supportive and coaching the kids and like really like jump started their careers and like made them into like the great actors that they would pretty much all become.
But yeah, I mean, it just goes to show like everyone on this cast had talent, and
nobody had to talk about Emma Watson because we all know what she's done.
Yeah, I mean, but it's
successful afterwards.
Yeah,
it just goes to show like everyone involved in this production is talented and had something to offer and still continues to have things to offer. And 20 years, man, the legacy that Harry Potter has left behind and is continuing.
Well, that's why you have a Harry Potter weekend every weekend.
That's true. Do you guys, I'm going to pose this question to you. Do you think that if they were to do the sequels, like I know how she did the Cursed Child or something like that, if they were to do that and bring back like the original cast, would you go to the theater to see it?
I mean, probably not, because I didn't see any of these in the theater. And also, I remember when Cursed Child came out, there was a lot of hullabaloo from like the hardcore fans about the direction of the story. Because from what I understand, it's an unofficial sequel or something like that. For the hardcore Potter canon people, I guess. But yeah, so I mean, I would be interested to see it when I'd be able to view it at my house, but and it'd be cool to just know that they were doing it.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I never read The Cursed Child. When it came out, I was kind of, I feel like, over Harry Potter. If it was like a, limit, like in theaters and HBO Max thing, I would see it. And part of it too is just because like if they cast like the original characters, I mean, I feel like they're all strong actors now. So I think I would really be interested to see like who would direct it and how they would take it, because again, I don't know what the storyline for The Cursed Child is at all. Harry's
kid, and he's friends with Malfoy's kid, who is maybe Voldemort reincarnated. But Harry's kid is the asshole. And that's mostly what I remember. Also, Harry's an asshole.
I remember hearing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was working at the bookstore when that dropped, and it was like the biggest fucking event that we could have ever had. We like decorated the store as if it were a castle. It was a whole thing.
They're like, oh, thank God, another Harry Potter book. We're going to make some money.
Yeah.
Bookstores really come alive when Harry Potter stuff comes out.
Yeah.
But I'd probably the same as Sarah. I would watch it if it was in like a subscription service I was already subscribed to. I wouldn't go out of my way for it. I haven't even seen the last Fantastic Beasts. Like
I didn't see any of those.
I forgot that those were things, honestly, until right now.
And they're developing like a bunch of other spin-off things.
Yeah, I've never actually seen them. I think I own the first one.
I've seen the first Fantastic Beasts.
I've literally never watched it. I'm just like, I don't know. I'm weird about like watching.
I saw parts of
things.
it. I didn't see the whole thing.
Yeah, it wasn't, to me, when I watched it, I knew, I was like, okay, I have no interest in continuing this. Like, I had no interest at all.
That's funny.
But when I think about Harry Potter, I do enjoy it. I do like it.
Yeah.
If they were to make something with this crew, I would see it, whether or not it's a theater or an HBO Max thing is yet to be determined. But I don't know. Watching this first movie again just made me super nostalgic and made me want to go back and watch the rest of them.
I feel the same way. I kind of want to continue. And there's movies I know I do not like.
Really?
So I'm like a big Sirius Black fan, and I just felt like they did him so fucking dirty in the movies.
See, I hated the fifth book because it felt like it dragged so long, and Harry's just so mopey the whole time. So
yeah, he does get very depressed.
I kind of appreciated how the movie kind of like cut to the chase a little bit more.
But I think like maybe as we approach maybe the Christmas season, maybe I will watch. Since, Harry Potter's a Christmas
thing.
Why not?
I will say, though, I believe it's John Williams' score, right?
Oh, yeah. Amazing. Iconic.
It's just like, just putting him in charge of the music for any movie just takes it up to a specific level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, the score is so iconic. And it just really carries throughout the whole movie, too. There's like a certain level of just whimsy that he was able to capture in that sound that he created for it. And it works so well throughout. I really, really love the music throughout this.
Yeah.
It's so iconic. Anytime I hear it, it immediately pulls me into that world. I'm in Diagon Alley. I'm at Hogwarts. I'm in the Great Hall. Like, it's a good time.
It was weird watching and recognizing the clips that they used in the DVD menus. And like how how you would like fall asleep with like the DVD menu playing and just like the loop of the same clip of music.
Yep.
Good times. I do feel very nostalgic for Harry Potter. So I will say that as much as I'm not like an adult fan and I don't obsess over it, and besides this notebook that I've had since like 2000, I don't have like Harry Potter merch. Good times. This was a fun one. Nice little throwback.
Joe, any final thoughts on Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone?
If the only way to get the stone out was to want it and to not want to use it, if Harry didn't go there, everything would have been fine.
It's true.
That's kind of like what I've been mulling over since last night. Like, everything would have been fine if Harry had done nothing and just gone to school.
Because there'd be no way they could get it out.
Yeah. And they probably would have like caught him and like caught Voldemort, and like the rest of the like next 10 years would have been fine.
Alternate ending.
But he had to stick his fucking nose where it didn't belong.
And that's...
Which is also interesting how like Harry's like a celebrity for this book and this book only, and then the rest of the time he's just like our asshole classmate who's always doing stupid shit. But yeah, it was definitely a walk down memory lane. It was nostalgic. I don't think I want to watch the rest. I think I'm happy leaving this behind me. But yeah, it was fun.
Joe's like a reformed fan.
I am. I've moved beyond it.
He's got his chip.
It has no sway over me. I don't need it.
Robert?
So for me, I mean, Harry Potter is a fun thing that a lot of people enjoy, and I don't not enjoy it, but I don't particularly go out of my way to invest myself in it one way or the other. Like if I go to Universal, like we'll definitely go to it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like gonna be like absolutely not. That's stupid. Like it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
I know that. But yeah, you know, it's a fun movie that I have a lot of sentimental memories about, and I enjoy it in that regard. I do, however, consistently roll my eyes, and Amanda will vouch for this whenever it is a Harry Potter weekend, because she always puts it on. She always puts it on. Every time. I'd come home from work and be like, oh, another fucking Harry Potter weekend. Sweet. Another 2 hours of this shit.
Wait till Vinny gets old enough for Harry Potter.
No, it'll be fun. I mean, yeah, like that's the thing. Like I don't hate it in the way that I'll be like, no.
By then they'll be rebooting
I also like
it
won't call it blasphemy either. So
So you heard what we all thought about Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So now we need to hear from you. So let us know what you guys thought. What's your favorite memory of Harry Potter? What's your favorite movie? Who's your favorite character? What's your favorite scene? Could you say the spells? Let us know.
Could you tell me where to find a bazaar?
Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Pop Kannon.
And if you want, you could join our Facebook group. It's called Pop Kannon Collective. All you have to do is search that on your little Facebook device, because it's not a phone, it's a Facebook device. And search Pop Kannon Collective and ask to join. And if you follow the 2 like really critical rules that we have for the group, you'll be allowed in.
We are available on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. So you like Spotify, we're on Spotify. You like iTunes, we're on iTunes. You can rate, review, subscribe. You know, just do it.
We also share these podcast episodes as videos on YouTube. So if you want to head over there, if you like visual entertainment, follow us at Pop Kannon. That's with a K. And make sure to like and subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified whenever we post a new episode. See you there.
So thank you very much for watching and or listening. You can always subscribe for more Pop Kannon content. This has been episode 67. We are your hosts. My name is Jordan. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at JL24FPS.
And I'm Robert, and you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Yesball.
I'm Sarah, and I'm on Instagram at Sarah Ann Dippity.
I'm Joe, and I'm a Slytherin, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Joe for Broke.
You can slither into his DMs.
Slither on in there. Anyway, for Pop Kannon, we will see you on the very next episode.